as I'm sure everyone heard, former President Donald Trump was convicted yesterday. He was found guilty on all 34 counts against him in his New York hush money trial. Now, reactions were definitely polarized. So the New York Times went with the simple guilty headline. The New Yorker had a drawing of Trump being handcuffed, while Time magazine had a graphic showing of a gavel coming down on Trump. But then over on the other side, the New York Post front page went with the headline, quote unquote, injustice, calling it a political hit job. Outside the courthouse yesterday, anti-Trump protesters celebrated the verdict, but some Trump supporters looked visibly upset, some even crying. It was a similar story on cable news. So over on MSNBC, folks were celebrating the decision, calling it a majestic day. Meantime, on Fox News, Republicans were upset, calling it a partisan witch hunt and a calculated political move. That was a disgrace to the New York justice system. This morning, Trump held a press conference at Trump Tower. Take a look.
This is a case where if they can do this to me, they can do this to anyone. It was a rigged trial. We wanted a venue change where we could have a fair trial. We didn't get it. We wanted a judge change. We wanted a judge that wasn't conflicted. And obviously he didn't do that. Nobody's ever seen anything like it.
So lots of questions. And so for more on this, we are joined by friend of the show, veteran trial attorney, Mark Eiglarsh. Mark, great to see you. We just saw you yesterday. Glad to see you again. So we have to ask you, are you surprised that there is a guilty verdict?
I wouldn't say surprised. This case came down to, would they believe Cohen? I always disagreed with prosecutors when they said we have a mountain of evidence. It doesn't matter if you believe Cohen or not. Of course it does. That was his partner in crime. And they had to believe in Cohen. And apparently they did, in spite of his convictions for perjury and the fact that he's been to prison and he can't tell a straight story in the past. But they believed him.
So other than their belief in Cohen's testimony, is there another reason that you feel like Trump was found guilty?
Yes, because, Erica, the evidence seemed to corroborate or support Cohen and support the government's narrative. There was enough evidence that seemed to show that this wasn't something that he deferred to Cohen to handle. He didn't know, I'm too busy running my election. He knew, his fingerprint was on it. He directed it. This is what the jurors found. And he did this unlawful bookkeeping to commit another offense.
So, Mark, in your mind, did the defense make any mistakes that you think caused Trump to lose the case specifically?
It's always so hard. I hate second-guessing fellow colleagues. I'll tell you one thing I wouldn't have done, and I don't blame them. I think this came from Trump. Just my gut feeling, and that was, we're going to challenge Stormy Daniels. We'll say that the affair never even happened. Why take on that burden?
Right.
You didn't need to do that. Say, folks, we're not going to address that. And by doing so, you don't then get into, does the president wear a condom or not? Does he wear boxers and pose on a bed naked? Like, who needs all that?
Totally.
It became a sideshow, and everybody believed, most likely, that he really did have the affair. So his credibility was harmed from that claim.
So looking back now, do you think Trump taking the stand and testifying, that would have been a good decision, speaking of sideshows?
No. Listen, you know Trump, and I don't think that would have helped him. I think the best shot was for the defense to say, look, the fish who kept his mouth shut never got caught. Sit there, be quiet. And somehow they kept him off the stand, which is unbelievable. And their best chance was to argue reasonable doubt, that you cannot convict him based upon primarily the word of Cohen. And apparently 12 people unanimously rejected that in a fairly short period of time.
I can't believe they didn't get him, that he wanted to testify so bad and somehow Todd Blanche got him not to. I was very impressed. But I also want you to hear this, Mark. This is Todd Blanche. This is what he said about the trial. Take a look and we'll get your opinion on the flip.
Did your client get a fair trial?
I mean, no. I don't think so. I mean, we've been saying for over a year that we couldn't get a fair trial in Manhattan. We couldn't get a fair trial with the judge, and it played out in lots of ways exactly as we expected.
All right, Mark, I'm going to give it to you straight. Did Trump get a fair trial? Question mark.
Well, his lawyer says what I say when I come in second place at a trial. Of course, that's what he's going to say.
Right.
Look, it depends on how you define fair trial. Do I believe that they found 12 people who could push aside any of their biases and their feelings for or against Trump and make a decision based upon the facts presented and the law that the judge read? Yes, unless you show me any kind of evidence that they somehow were nefarious or incredibly biased or they were stealth jurors. I believe that's what was done, and that is the definition of a fair trial.
All right, well, this is what I'm most curious about because obviously he's going to appeal. So what do you think is most likely? Do you think he has a chance to get this overturned? And what would you, if you were his hypothetical lawyer, go after in the appeal?
Okay, so yes, he's got a chance. Like every single person has a chance. Is it like Dumb and Dumber? Yeah, I got a chance. It's not that low, but it's pretty low and remote in that the appellate courts generally are not in the business of reversing convictions. So we start there. The chances are very low. One of my former law partners, who does nothing but appellate work, once said, "I get paid to lose,"
Wow.
because he loses most of his cases. That said, there are issues in this case. The main one is going to be the jury charge. When they read that instruction to them and said, you don't have to find the specific charge that you believe, or the specific offense that he intended to commit while he was doing this unlawful bookkeeping. That seems a bit unusual. Normally, like in a burglary case, you know what the reason why they're alleging you went into that house. They'll say to do theft or to commit vandalism. Here, they didn't specify. So I don't know. That's a chance. If that instruction was erroneous, then that definitely should cause the case to be reversed.
Ooh, interesting. Mark, always great to hear from you. Your expertise is always spot on. Thank you for joining us. For more information on Mark and his law firm, go to speaktomark.com. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you for your help with all of this.
Guys. Thank you. Have a great weekend.
You too.